Hello, everyone. We're live. Welcome to this hangout on the Mummy trilogy, specifically the trilogy. Yeah, and I'm here today with Harry Thomas and a new guest, Josh, or future filmmaker. So, yeah, thank you guys for coming. We're going to be giving our thoughts all three of these films with the release of the new film, the new Mummy, in any way linked to these films, but we're going to be reflecting on the Mummy and the Dragon Emperor. So, the newest guest on these live hangouts, I'm going to let him start with The Mummy, the 1999 film.
Thank you, Ollie. The Mummy, 1999. I remember watching this on TV as a kid, and I remember I didn't like it as much. But then, over time, I started to like the movie more. I have seen the original classic, but I love how they decided to take the Mummy in a different approach for 1990s. And 1999, you had a lot of movies. You had this movie, you had The Matrix, you had Toy Story 2. Just yeah, and this movie it came good. It's a really fun adventure film. It does have some horror elements and is very well crafted.
Mm.
He did a great job with the directing and the writing the film. I think the locations in this movie are very well. I love first the first first couple minutes when we do get to see what happens to Emotep and his lover. I do like that.
The better lost Twilight.
Yes. And yeah, for a movie that's PG-13, the movie does have some very intense horrifying stuff, but But it's PG-13, and the UK is your rating system is different.
Yeah, it's in
but
the 15. Yeah.
But yeah, I personally think this is a great film. I love this movie. I think this movie is it's fun. It's a fun Indiana Jones like sort of mummy film, and for $80 million, that is not bad. For the movie looks good with
I didn't know
$80 million budget. Yeah, some of the CGI is a little iffy, but it was when CGI was was just starting. So yes, the CGI does look, some of it looks dated, but it does look pretty good. The cast, I love the cast here. Brendan Fraser, really great as Rick O'Connell. He's funny. He's very funny. I like him. He's great. Rachel Weisz as Evelyn Evie. Yes, I have a crush on Rachel Weisz. So yes, well, she was great.
I mean, Mrs. Daniel Craig. Woo!
Oh yeah.
he's lucky. But yeah, I like Rachel Weisz. She's clumsy and she's talented, and I like her character.
Mm. Even though they turn her into distress at the very end, but oh well.
Yeah, Imhotep, aka Arnold Vosloo, is Imhotep. He's really cool. The CGI of him when he is the mummy, he looks cool.
Mm. Sorry, Josh. Can I ask you a question? Is he actually Egyptian, or is he like an American actor?
Arnold Vosloo?
Yeah.
I think he's UK or something. I don't know. I don't know. I think he's South African and born American actor. So yeah, he's South African born American actor.
Oh, right. Fair enough.
Yes. And I also like John Hannah as the brother. He's funny.
Jonathan.
Yeah. Oded Fair as Arnett Bay. I really did I like him. And Eric Avari, I really did like in this movie as well. He also had it's just a good cast, and cinematography looks good, and it looks really good. The locations are they are very amazing. By cinematography is done by the late Adrian Belu, who also did cinematography for V for Vendetta, which yeah, and the music by Jerry Goldsmith, the late Jerry Goldsmith, he's also really great. And the movie's only 2 hours and 5 minutes. It doesn't even feel like it because it goes by quick. Yeah, again, I like ILM, the effects here. They use motion capture to have a realistic and menacing mummy. That's pretty cool. And the sand, the big giant sand monster that comes out at the end of the movie, that's pretty cool. So I will say that this is a fun movie. I love the film. I honestly I would give this one probably an 8.5.
8.5 out of 10.
Yes, an 8.5.
Awesome. Cheers, Josh. So we move on to Ari.
Oh, thanks, Ollie. Just like Josh, oddly enough, I also first saw the 1999 Mummy on TV as a kid, and I have always greatly enjoyed it. It's just such a fun horror movie that it's basically a classic mummy movie, and that's what I love. It's this is one of the funnest, most underappreciated horror movies that I have ever seen. I mean, Stephen Sommers, he's a pretty solid director, and I enjoy the direction that he did take the Mummy. I love the opening, the backstory where the Pharaoh's priest has an affair with his wife, and they end up betraying him and murder him, and we get to see how they became the Mummy. And he is just a awesome villain. Especially when he comes out as the Mummy, he looks he looks creepy as fuck. The effects on him may and look great. Actually, they are some of the better effects of the film, which I will touch on a little later. But as for the cast, Brendan Fraser, he's pretty good. He's a likable action hero, and Rachel Weisz,
Rachel Weisz.
Rachel Weisz, sorry, she is hot.
It's hard to pronounce her name.
Yeah, pretty much. She is hot, and she's a really likable, love interest. I agree she did not need to be a damsel in distress towards the end, but that's just terrific. And her brother, Uncle Jonathan, he's hilarious.
He's not an uncle yet, but interesting how you called him Uncle Jonathan.
Oh yeah, because their son's not born yet in this movie. Of course, her brother Jonathan. Yeah, he's such a not just the Mummy makes for a great villain, but of course the woman she makes for a great secondary antagonist. I love how the movie said, why not have two mummies to face? And the movie does horror elements so well. Just the scarab beetles always terrify me, how they just devour you, and the ancient...
When they go inside people's bodies as well. Yeah, it's quite freaky.
Yeah, that's horrible. Yeah, so they did a perfect job with creeping me out. Yeah, yeah, the gore is sensational, and it still holds up. And the Egyptian setting is just perfect, of course. And yeah, and uh, and the movie is 2 hours and 5 minutes, which is a reasonable blockbuster length, the and the soundtrack by Jerry Goldsmith, as Josh says, is really good. It really does his job, and the I will say that the effects do look a little dated now. This was 1999.
I actually think even for then they might have been a little bit rushed. I mean, because we had the Matrix in the same year, so it was kind of lackluster in comparison.
Star Wars won the Phantom Menace, and that movie's effect.
Yeah, that was the only thing the Phantom Menace had going for it, was the bloody effects.
Oh yeah, yeah, the effects on the Phantom Menace were revolutionary.
George Lucas has been sitting on his arse playing on his computer too long.
Well, yeah, pretty much. At least he can do visuals, but yeah, the effects could definitely have been improved. And sure, the movies just the movie's just so cheesy, and some of the humor is very out of place.
Well, like when Rick screams at the mummy, like, yeah. I find that quite funny, actually. Brendan Fraser has like a certain face, like when he screams, he has one of those scream faces that are just hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
It's a bit like when Tobey Maguire yells in Spider-Man 2, he goes, cracks me up.
Exactly. yeah, that's an internet meme. And you're sure some of the humor is a little out of place when this movie's, of course, is a horror movie. It's supposed to scare you, but yeah, it's basically the Mummy meets Indiana Jones. Obviously, the Indiana Jones movies are far superior to this, but
other than the fourth one, in my opinion.
Other than Kingdom of the Crystal Crap. Oh, yeah.
I like the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's all right. It's silly. Like, thankfully, there are no nuclear fridges in this one.
Yeah. Yeah, at least the writing is a bit more consistent. So all in all, yeah, this is easily the best of the Mummy trilogy for me. From 1999 to 2008, it kicks the shit out of the meh reboot from 2017. This is a how
I like the 2017 reboot. I thought it was okay.
Yeah,
it had issues.
Right.
We can always do a separate hangout on the reboot one. We can talk about that one in a lot more detail, because I've quite a lot to say about that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was all right. But this version is just so much better. This is basically the 2017 reboot done actually good, done right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean,
well, obviously the fact that it's not in modern day, that's the only major difference.
Oh yeah, it's in the past. Yeah, the past setting actually was the right setting for me. So yeah, I always have a good blast with the Mummy. It's still far from perfect, but I'm still gonna give it a good 8 out of 10. Yeah, my favorite of the trilogy. So Ollie, what are your thoughts on the 1999 Mummy?
Oh, thank you, Harry. Oh, by the way, you don't have to segue me into the next bit if you don't want to.
Okay.
The Mummy. Yeah, I watched this trilogy recently with the new film. I also bought it recently on Blu-ray. That's actually one that I'd kind of forgotten. I hadn't seen it as much as the others. I'd only seen it once or twice. I watched it recently. I kind of agree, but I have a couple more issues with it. I think it's a solid, fun popcorn blockbuster film. I think it said this about this trilogy, is that it's basically a poor man's Indiana Jones, and you can definitely see Stephen Sommers has been influenced by Steven Spielberg. Oh, lol, the two Stevens, funny enough. And, you know, but this movie is cool. It's unique. It doesn't completely rip off Indiana Jones, but there's definitely an infusion of that in the filmmaking. Like the sense of like the fun action to find whatever, the fact that it's set in back in time, and, you know, like that. I like the backstory in the opening movie, far more interesting than the one in the reboot, which was just what? I mean, anyway, I like Imhotep's story. It's interesting, you know, how it's obviously this sort of, it's kind of, in a way, if you think about it, it's kind of like Romeo and Juliet. There's like a forbidden, and, you know, both of the two characters die for each other, essentially.
Yeah, never thought of that.
Yeah, no, it only occurred to me as well. Sorry, Josh.
I've always seen a Romeo and Juliet thing with a Noxon Moon and Imhotep. Yeah, it is a forbidden love. Yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, I mean, obviously, you know, she's got all this makeup over her because he's allowed to touch her, so it would be very easy to see if someone's touched her. You know, she has all that makeup, and, you know, I think it's interesting how, you know, she kills the guy she's meant to be married to, the pharaoh, and, you know, well, no, sorry, I can't remember. Is it Imhotep that kills him? Yeah.
Well, they both do, in a way.
Yeah, no, you're right. Sorry, and then she kills. It's a very dramatic opening. I mean, this is actually, we see another side of this in the second one, but we'll get to that in a bit. And yeah, I think it sets up the film really well, and it's very, you know, interesting. And obviously, we go back to 1923 when we see Rick O'Connell. Now, I think this is Brendan Fraser's signature role. I think he's really good in this movie. He's a likable and, you know, protagonist. He's a good actor. He's a very interesting character, and I think he was perfect for the role. Yeah, he could be a little bit cheesy in certain moments, like when he screams at the mummy. He goes, "Ah!"
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I like the chemistry. Surprisingly, it works rather well. Because Brendan Fraser sometimes is a comedy actor, but I think in this film he proves he can do sort of, you can play the hero and you can play your loving. And I really believe we'll get in a bit. But yeah, and, you know, I like the romance it builds. It actually doesn't feel forced at all. It's funny how he actually kisses her. She's like, you know, can you take us, you know, to Hamanaptra? You really want to know? You really want to know where it is? And he kisses her, and he's like, then get me there. So, you know, he's very forward in that sense. And then, yeah, so he's really cool. We have Rachel Weisz, who plays Evie, or Evelyn. She's very good. She's a very smart person. You know, she can read ancient Egyptian. And, you know, she's not she turns into a damsel in distress at the end, but that's not her fault. That's the writing. It's quite. He gets drunk, and then, you know, she's with Rick, and then, I'm going to kiss Mr. O'Connell, and, you know, gives off some good comedic timing as well. She does do quite a lot, and, you know, when the frightening moments ensue, she does look very terrified. So I do think her best performance is actually in the second film, but we'll get to the second film in a minute. And also, you know, her brother Jonathan, who played by John Hannah, who I think is just a delight. Jonathan is one of my favorite characters. Just, you know, his comic timing is superb. And I mean, yeah, maybe he his character didn't really have much of a purpose in terms of the narrative, but, you know, he brings a lot of light relief to this film as well, and in particular the next one. I really like him. I think he's awesome, and, you know, there's the nice brother-sister sort of relationship. You see it most in this film, which I think is brilliant, with with Rachel Weisz and John Hannah. There's a scene at the beginning where he frightens her when he's inside the coffin. So like he's a bit of a lovable bastard basically, and we sort of see that he's a bit greedy. He wants fortune and stuff, which is something that can in the next two films as well. Good. You have a couple of others. I don't know the actor's name, but the guy, sort of the major, the Muslim leader guy. I think his name is Ardis, but I can't remember. He's interesting. He returns for the next one as well. You also have another comedian in this film called Omid Djalali. Is that how you say his name? He's only in it for like the first 45 minutes because he gets killed off. But do you know who I'm talking about, Harry?
Who are you talking about? Sorry.
He's the guy in the Fez. He's the guy in the Fez. You know, when the beginning they're about to hang Rick, and then he's offering him money. It's that guy. I can't remember his name. He's called Omid Djalali or something like that. He's actually.
I can't quite remember his name, but he does remind me of another guy in a turban, John Rhys Davies from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, I guess you could say he is the John Rhys Davies of this movie. But yeah, his name is like Omid Djalali or something like that. That's how. He's a very famous comedian. But anyway, yeah, so he's got a couple of funny lines. The action in this movie is pretty awesome. For me, I have to disagree with Josh. I'm sorry. This movie to be a little bit slow. The first half of it takes its time quite a lot. I mean, there is obviously stuff, but like it takes a while before we actually see Imhotep. And I think there are a couple of scenes you probably could have removed. It takes too long to get to the mummy.
Yeah, some movies I don't feel the length with some movies, but with most movies like At World's End, which I did watch your reflection on Pirates of the Caribbean, I will agree with At World's End. Even though I like it more on a second rewatch, I have to say that there are still some things you could remove from At World's End.
Oh yeah, I mean, At World's End was just unbelievably long. I mean, it was.
Oh yeah.
I liked the film. I mean, I was so glad that Salazar's Revenge was 2 hours 10 minutes because it really benefited from being the shortest. But anyway, back to the mummy. Yeah, I mean, the action is well staged, and I do love the climax when they have to take on Imhotep. They're having like a massive conversation, you know, when Rick is fighting him, and he's saying, "Oh, what does this symbol mean?" It's like Manifest, you know. There's all that going back and forth, which is quite funny. So, yeah. But I think the biggest problem with this movie is the visual effects. Now, I don't normally say that for films like this, but it's very sad to see this movie has terrible visual effects. I'm sorry, but even for 1999, when effects were really moving forward with films like The Matrix and even Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, I mean, say what you will of the script of that movie, but at least it looked nice. This movie is the opposite. The script is great, but the effects just don't. Sometimes it's jarring. It takes you out of the world of the film for me. I mean, it's not. I mean, Imhotep looks great. The CGI in Imhotep is fine. It's like the green. Some of the effects, like with, you know, when trying to transfer the souls, like at the very end as well, when Imhotep, well, like, or sort of dies as he comes back in the next one. Some of them, it just looks very computer gamey, a bit like half rendered. It's not a major problem, but it would be nice. I mean, it's obviously not aged very well at all. If you were to compare the effects of this to something like War for the Planet of the Apes, I mean, this movie would be thrown into the ex-rental basket. So,
War for the Planet of the Apes looks like the next Avatar for me.
It does, yeah. I'm very surprised. Like after Dawn, I didn't think the effects could get much better, but yeah, that was another reflection for another time. We'll do the new Rise of the New Planet. We've all seen War and reviewed that. But yeah, The Mummy's a good film. I don't think it's. I'm sorry, Harry. I don't think it's the best in the trilogy. I give it to the next one. But I think it's fun sometimes the pacing can drag, but when it gets going, after the first hour, it really picks up, and there's a lot more action, and then it becomes a lot more fun. And, you know, the music score as well by Jerry Goldsmith is great. Stephen Sommers' direction is pretty solid. And it's a very intriguing film. Like, I love the whole kind of ancient Egypt. You know, that's nice. And, you know, for it to take a classic, like, sort of The Mummy and try and change it up to 99, well, I'd say remake. We're not reimagining. It looks really cool. I mean, it's just a shame that visually the effects just don't work. The performances are great, and it's a lot of fun. You know, when it needs to be. But if they just refined the pacing in the first half a little bit and cleaned up the effects, then I could give this. But I'm gonna rate The Mummy an 8 out of 10. It's solid. It's great. Best in the trilogy for me. I guess that's where we disagree, Harry.
Oh yeah.
So we now move on to the middle chapter of this trilogy, The Mummy Returns, released in 2001, also directed by Steve. So, Josh, would you like to give us your thoughts on The Mummy Returns?
Of course. Now, like Ollie said, this was released 2001, and 2001 was another big year for movies. Sorcerer's Stone, Fellowship of the Ring, even Training Day, which that's my favorite performance from Denzel Washington is Training Day. But The Mummy Returns, out of all of them, this is the one I go back and rewatch the most. This one is my favorite of the trilogy.
Yay!
And I like how this movie starts. Once again, the great cinematography by the late Adrian Biddle, and the movie starts off with the Scorpion King, and he's leading his army on a campaign to conquer the world. And he's fighting for 7 years. His army is defeated while attacking Thebes, and they are exiled to the desert, where his men die of heat exhaustion, and he vows to give Anubis his soul through power to defeat his enemies. He is given a legion of jackal and warriors in return, and so they claim the Scorpion King's soul and his army for all time. And I like that at the beginning of this movie, you do get to see The Rock, and this was his first movie, so I have to say The Rock, he did a darn good job for what he had. And I did like him in the Scorpion King film. So, but honestly, it's when he comes back later on in the movie, that's the big problem I'll get to. But I'll just say that after the first minutes with Scorpion King, we go back to we are in 1933 and Rick and Evelyn. I like that they have a son, but most of the time the son is kind of like douche, and he finds the bracelet. He puts on the bracelet. It shows a vision directing him to Amshire, and Alex. He has 7 days to reach the oasis, or the bracelet will kill him when the sun shines on Scorpion King's pyramid. And then once again, Evelyn is captured, but this time by an Egyptian cult, and they bring back Imhotep, and Anaxu is also back. And I do like the whole story of the movie. I like the story of the film. I like that they went more into Evelyn's backstory and more Anaxu backstory in this movie. Yeah, and just they have to go off and find the sun, and then when it gets to the point, you do think that Anaxu did kill Evelyn, but nope. Evelyn comes back at the end. Again, the acting here is great.
Yeah, about that, we can actually see her come back. She just kind of appears. Like, obviously they read from the book, so that apparently brings her back to life. It wasn't really explained, unless
really explain much, but the Rock, he was really good for the screen time he had. I like that we got to see Adewale Ekenari Agbayi in one of his early parts. Yes, Killer Croc was also, it was cool going back and seeing Killer Croc was in this movie. The action, they did up the action in this one. I do love the action. The effects, they look much better here, but in just, I'll get to it. The music is really good. I do like the song that they played during the end credits. That is a pretty cool song. Cinematography is once again good. The directing is still good. Some of the writing in here is a little 50% because some of the stuff that's in this movie is not explained a whole lot. It's a movie. I get it. You don't want to make the movie too long because the movie is already 2 hours and 10 minutes, and I don't think this movie is confusing. I can sit here and follow the plot of each of these mummy movies, and I won't miss anything. But as for problems, yeah, again, they could have explained some stuff a little more. But the biggest problem is when you do see The Rock, and it's pretty cool with the fight between Brendan Fraser and Anna Lewis Imhotep, but what comes out of this door is this terrible. I don't even know how to describe it. The Rock.
It's like Josh. It's like PS2. It's like PS2 cutscene.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know how to describe. I get it. It's 2001, and effects were still trying to. But I have to compare the effects.
Came out the same year. Lord of the Rings.
When I have to compare the effects, movies like Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or the Philosopher's Stone, or the Fellowship of the Ring, those effects look more better than how the Scorpion King looks at the end of this movie. It doesn't even look like The Rock. I'm telling you. Even when I saw this movie, like the CGI, really?
You might as well have just had that
really?
Rock come through that door. Worth the bad CGI. Just have an actual rock sitting on the floor.
Exactly.
Yeah. They could fix that up. You could fix that up and make it look more like The Rock. And when he does come out, he's speaking in this Egyptian language, and then he has the scorpion foreign body, and he tries to kill him. Brent Fraser, I'm like, this is terrible. This is terrible. And then you get to see Anubis and his army when Oded Fair and his group of men, they're fighting. And then when Rick does stab Scorpion King, I do like that. And the comedy is also really good, still good here. But some of the comedy is like, do we really need this? But despite this is still my favorite of the trilogy. It is, the effects are much better. I probably give this one a 9.3.
Awesome.
I give this a 9. And so yeah.
So, Harry. Returns.
Thanks, Ollie. Well, I do enjoy this movie. It's definitely a decent enough follow-up to the 1999 Mummy. I know you guys think it's the best of the trilogy. I have to disagree on that one. This is my second favorite of the trilogy. Yeah, sorry about that. I rank it.
Not bad. Not too bad.
That's okay. I rank it in the middle of this trilogy pretty much, but the reviews have been not very kind to this movie. It only has like 47% on Rotten Tomatoes.
It has a 47%.
Yeah. I think that's a little low. I think that's harsh. I mean, it's way better.
I mean, Either way, at least they agree that it's better than Tomb of the Dragon Emperor.
It's Spider-Man 3's score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Spider-Man 3 score is far too low. Agrees, and this movie's definitely underrated. I mean, I do love the backstory with the Scorpion King. It's again a enthralling backstory that draws you in, just like the opening of the first movie. And and of course, this movie has all of the cast from the original film return: Brendan Fraser, Rachel Weisz, John Hannah, and new child actor as their son. And of course, the older villain returns as well as the new villain, obviously the Scorpion King, played by Dwayne Johnson. And I do enjoy the cast once again, and I do appreciate how this movie delved into Evelyn's backstory. As Josh says, it really developed her greatly as a character. But I do think briefly killing her off towards the end was completely pointless. We know she comes back to life anyway, so why have that in there? That didn't make sense.
Emotional blackmail.
Exactly, it was to force tension, basically. And
actually, Harry, one thing it did do was actually prove to me how much Rick and Evie were in love. You could see how strong their marriage was and how strong their relationship was in the second film. Personally, for me, would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. It did show how strong and believable their chemistry was. I agree. Yeah, they definitely have a surprisingly great romance, and I enjoy their son. He's a fine child actor. Yeah, definitely, and he's better than a few other child actors. That's
Jake
for
Lloyd.
sure. Jake Lloyd, exactly. And now this is pod racing.
I'll try spinning. That's a
Oh yeah, totally. And now I can call him Uncle Jonathan because he's an uncle in this movie. Yeah, he's back and he's still fun as ever. And the act in this movie is great. I will give it this. It probably does have my favorite action scenes in the trilogy. And the third act of the film is crazy fun. It's the best part. So where the Magi have to defeat Anubis's army. That is so cool. And of course the final confrontation in the pyramid with the Scorpion King. That is badass. And although I will say, getting into some of my negatives, I do think this movie's a little too long. I mean, it's like 5 minutes longer than the first movie, and it didn't need to be. It definitely had a couple of pacing issues in certain parts, and the CGI on the oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm just joking, Harry.
Okay.
Sorry, I shouldn't do
that. Yeah, fair enough. If you don't mind the length, and the Scorpion King is an intimidating villain, and of course. What did you guys think of the 2002 movie, The Scorpion King? I actually enjoyed it.
I remember it was
Scorpion King.
Okay. Sorry, Josh, I'll let you go first.
I like to Scorpion King movie. I think that's underrated. Cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, from what I remember, I've only seen it once, so I don't think I liked it as much as like The Mummy or The Mummy Returns, but better than Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. So I guess I can say that much. But we'll get to Tomb of the Dragon Emperor shortly.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh cool, yeah. I enjoyed the Scorpion King prequel, and the Scorpion King is an intimidating villain, but the CGI on Dwayne Johnson, it's vomitingly bad. It's terrible.
Like PS2 cutscene. That's literally what it looks like. It looks like a video game.
Exactly. It's so poorly rendered, like a 2000s video game cutscene.
They probably slapped that in at like a day before they released the film. Like, you know, in the year of the Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, they have that bad CGI. They probably did it a week before they sent the film off to print, you know, for distribution.
Yeah, exactly. That's just embarrassing. I mean, yeah, Fellowship of the Ring had an outstanding CGI compared to this. Yeah, the CGI is all. That's another criticism. Is not much better here than it was in the first film, and the music by Alan Silvester. It's okay, but I definitely.
I thought Jerry Goldsmith did the score for this one as well.
Uh, I thought so, but apparently it was Alan Silvester from.
Oh, Alan Silvestri. Oh, that's a shame. Well, I mean, he's a good composer. I'm going to check that actually, but thanks for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, and just.
Oh, bitch. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a different composer. It's an okay score, but I preferred Jerry Goldsmith from the first movie, and the ending, for me, is far too rushed. It's abrupt. So they just ride off into the sunset. That's a complete rip-off of the ending of The Last Crusade when they ride off into the sun. I mean, these movies, of course, they do have an Indiana Jones vibe to them, but this one probably did take it a bit too far. So all in all, Mummy Returns still a good sequel, enjoyable and definitely underrated, but not my personal favorite of the trilogy. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10.
Fair enough. Also, sorry about that, Harry. I didn't mean to like boo and hiss at you. I was just joking.
Yeah, I know.
Your opinion is your opinion. But now it's time for my opinion. And my opinion of The Mummy Returns is that I really like it. I'm with Josh. I think this is the best of the trilogy. I watched it yesterday, and I forgot how much I enjoyed it. For me, this took what I liked about the first one and actually improved it a little bit. What I wanted from the second one, which I was happy about. It's a much faster, brisker paced film. There's more action as well, which I think helps. And the story, I think, is engaging, even though you could argue that, yes, there is an The Mummy Returns, so you should expect that.
Yeah.
I generally think the story is awesome, like with the whole bracelet, Anubis thing, and then the whole time with Scorpion King. You know, having two makes it interesting rather than it just being Imhotep again and some repeats. So they didn't actually completely copy the first one, which I was happy about. And I like that there's been a progression with the characters, like Rick, which is interesting. Brendan Fraser kicks ass in this movie. I think this is his best performance of the trilogy. I really do. You just see how much of a devoted father the guy is, and how much of he's a family man this time, and he really wants to protect his family. Like the unbending loyalty to Evie and Alex, and even Jonathan, I guess, is very much apparent in this movie, and I think he gives a very emotional performance as well. Rachel Weisz as Evie, this is her best performance as well. And again, as Harry said, the backstory is awesome. Like with her being essentially having been reincarnated, and she's seeing flashes of her previous life as Nefertiri, I believe her name was. And the fight sequence she has with Anaxunomon is so good. It is so athletic. I mean, yeah, Rachel Weisz is hot, and she's really fit, and she's able to do so much. I mean, you wouldn't believe for 1 second this woman could mother a child as well. But wow. And it adds a lot to her character as well. And we see her reaction to the death of her father, as in her previous life, the Pharaoh, which is awesome, which is interesting. And that kind of, it links the first and the second film very nicely together. I think it's very, very sense. And, you know, I do have to say, though, I agree with Harry, maybe killing her off wasn't really a good idea. If you were just going to bring her back, then what was the point? I mean, she came back within 2 minutes, and You know, we didn't actually see her come back. They just read from the book, and then she just appeared. She's like, "Oh, take Alex out of it." It's like, "Oh, well, that seems pointless." Then it makes the whole thing redundant. Like I said earlier, it's emotional blackmail.
Yeah.
I'm okay with the movie trying to be more emotional, but you could have written it in so many other ways. I mean, you do essentially have quite an emotional core throughout this film. You know, them wanting to get their son back. So for me, that was enough. You know, you didn't need to force Evie's, well, almost death, as I like to call it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, her almost death. So returns as Jonathan. He's again hilarious in this movie. Him at the beginning with a girl, how he's become a bit more his wealth around, and I love in the action scene in the house when the house gets attacked, and then Rick's looking for Jonathan and he's in the bath. Great, when he just lands in the bath and he's like, "What have you done this time?" "I haven't done anything to it." I think he has some of the best moments here, like, and especially like when he's trying to get this scepter as well, the spear, which actually becomes quite important towards the end. And you know, him and what's his name, Izzy, of fighting over it. That's quite funny. He is the funniest character in these movies, and throughout he's so entertaining to watch. He's just so likable. And at the end, like when they're waving goodbye to Otis, and Jonathan just like flaps his hand around and whatever. He just doesn't care. He's in it for the wealth. He's in it for, you know, whatever he can take. Like at the end when he takes the little pyramid off the top of the big pyramid, he's like, "It's not worth your life." "Yes, it is. Yes, it is." Like, I think that's why I love Jonathan. This movie's just so much fun, and I actually like Alex in this movie as well. Say what you want about Alex in the third movie. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the second film, I think Alex is pretty. He's actually quite a good child actor. I don't know the actor's name, but like he can hold his own. He's a bit like Rick in a way. He's a bit like a really young version of Rick. Like when he says, "Oh, you know, lady, I don't behave for my parents. What makes you think I'm going to do it for you?" I think that's great. Like the attitude that he has is awesome. And like when he says to Imogen, "My dad is going to kick your ass." That's a line that surprisingly works really well. He's not annoying as well. He can be a bit of a brat. I understand why if people do find him annoying, but I find him fine. He's annoying as Jake Lloyd in The Phantom Menace. Thank God. I mean, he does actually look a bit like Jake Lloyd, to be fair. He's actually quite a smart kid. Like when he's leaving clues for them, and he's leaving trails for them to go and find him when he's captured, obviously, I think is great. When he's trying to piss off that guard on the train, he's like, "Are we there yet? We there yet? We there yet? We there yet?" And then he out through the toilet. I think he's a really smart kid. He's very clever. I like that. Obviously, the villains are Dwayne Johnson as the Scorpion King. I mean, he's only in like 2 scenes of the movie. He's in the beginning, then he's in the end. Considering this was his first film, he does all right with what he has. But in the climax, when he comes through the door, forgivable CGI. Oh my God, it's like, it's like the computer like regurgitated was done. You know, that's what it feels like. It feels like a PS2 game cutscene that they slapped into the cut of the film. It feels like they did that at the last render it. It's only half rendered. It's realistic. It really takes me out of the movie. Again, the effects, whilst they're a bit better than the first one, they're still pretty bad, to be honest. I mean, like every time they're on the airship, like the back projection and the green screen, it's so bad and it's really annoying. It takes me out of it. It really does. But thankfully, the third movie, which one thing it does get right, is that it actually gets visually everything right. But yeah, so that's kind of annoying. I mean, the production design is great. Particularly, the best set of this film probably has to be either the O'Connell Mansion or the Palace main room where Evie and Axon and Mon have a fight, which is cool. And obviously, they repeat the fight in the climax, which is great. And Axon and Mon comes back. I don't really understand how she's come back. Like, she's come back, but apparently she hasn't got her soul. What the fuck? Like, who wrote this movie? Like, wait, did Stephen Sommers write this movie? It ends. I didn't like get why, like, she come back, but she hadn't fully come back. Like, you know, what? Like, it's just mind-boggling. I don't. But that's the least. And also, yeah, like, again at the end, like I mean, Josh said this as well. Like, they don't explain it like well when they saw. Then they try to kill off, and then they bring her back 2 minutes later. It's like, please, bitch, please. I think this movie's paced dragged me at all. It didn't feel 2 hours 10 minutes long. For me, the first movie felt longer because it was trying to establish so much, but I don't as much as the second. So maybe if I again later down the line, I might change my opinion. I think it's really a couple of mistakes, like the Enoch Cinnamon thing, just a couple of things that needed refining. I think it's probably not as scary as the first one, but it's more action packed than the first one, which is good. One of my favorite action scenes is the London chat on the bus, which I think is brilliant. Yeah, and yeah, again, like, the comedy's awesome. Like, particularly when Rick says to them, you know, he says, "Oh, right, you, big trouble, you, lighten up, you, get in the car." You know, it's like the commanding force in this film, which is great. I like the character of Izzy as well, like the pilot, the aeronaut. He's a funny character. And at the end, he turns up. He's like, "Come on, go on, I'm going to get on quickly." Like, he provides some good moments in the movie. And I like the story and the locations, but again, the effects are messy. They're a bit better than they are in the first, but it's not really saying much at all. Movie moves along, and it's a ton of fun, and you know, the direction by Stephen Sommers, but he's not the most technical director, I think. I don't think it's perfect, but it's a damn near side movie, but we'll get to that in a minute. I actually really like the soundtrack in this movie by Alan Silvestri. I didn't even realize it was him until Harry pointed it out to me. So I really like the main theme that recurs here, the da 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 da. That's cool. It's really well made, but it's not perfect. So I'm going to have to rate this one an 8 out of 10. So we now move on to the third and final film of this trilogy, The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Oh, fuck. Josh, take it away. With every expectation of a rant, please take it away.
When it comes to film trilogy, easily the third film can either be the best one or the worst one. For best ones, with me, easily some Dark Knight Rises. I like Alien 3.
Definitely.
I love Spider-Man 3. X-Men 3: The Last Stand has problems, but I love X-Men Apocalypse. And least favorite. I even like Toy Story 3. That's my favorite of the Toy Story trilogy. Yeah. But I hate the freaking teddy bear. I hate that freaking teddy bear.
Yeah. Lots of hugging bear.
When it comes to worst films in the trilogy, there's some trilogies where it gets to the third film I don't like easily, don't like the third film. This one, I don't hate it, but is in comparison of the first two movies, this movie is a letdown.
Yeah.
But again, this came out in 2008, and you had Iron Man and you had The Dark Knight, which is my favorite of the Nolan Dark Knight trilogy, The Dark Knight. But this movie here, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, it's an okay ending, but disappointing. It's an okay, decent third installment, but it still has issues. Um, First of all, the positives. I do like Brendan Fraser and John Hannah. They are the only two to return for all three films, and they do good. They do great in here. The material they're giving. I like. I like the. I like the other cast. I like Jet Li as the Dragon Emperor. I like Michelle Yeoh, the one who plays the daughter of Z Yuan.
Oh yeah, Isabella
Um,
Leong, I think her name is.
yeah, Isabel Leong. I liked her. I also like the action scenes. I like where this movie is shot. I like the effects. It's not industrial light and magic. It's rhythm and hues and digital domain here.
Hmm.
The musical score, I think music is fine.
Yeah.
And I will say that some of the directing is fine from Rob Cohen. I do like Rob Cohen as a director. I like the original Fast and Furious. And I like his work on the first Triple X movie with Vin Diesel.
Oh,
So,
Josh, sorry to interrupt you. Just very quickly about the music. Do you like the theme in the end credits that plays?
the theme in the end credits, the theme that they play in the end credits, it's okay. It's in comparison with the themes of the first two movies. It is pretty much a letdown.
Okay.
But I think it's okay. And some of the other and the locations that go to China, I like that they were doing something different here. But unfortunately, those are all my positives because I have a crap load of negatives with this
I knew it was going to be a rant.
one. But again, I don't hate the movie. I just anything that's good is kind of overshadowed by most of the negatives.
It's nothing to hate, really. Yeah.
Nothing to, but okay. Negative number. Rachel Weisz wanted to come back, but instead, Rachel Weisz she didn't want to play the mom of an adult Alex O'Connor, and also because she had just given birth to her son and she cited problems with the script. And Maria Bello as Evie, I will say that she's okay. Is Evelyn? She's okay, so I will give her that.
That'd be a bit wooden.
The son in here, I really don't like the son in here, but he does have his moments. He does have his moments.
Yeah. Can I ask, why does he
And
have an American accent? Like, he was English. Why is he now American?
yeah, and Odette Fair is extremely missing from this one, and I get it. They were going in a different direction because they. But honestly, this is the worst received of the three films.
Rightfully so.
It has a 13%, even though it made money. It has 13%. It has 13%. Some of the effects are iffy because some of it looks good and some of it looks pretty bland. There are some parts in this movie that I feel like are just really they're just there for nothing. And some of the humor is not even funny. So when it comes to this one, it's pretty lukewarm for me. There's things I like and there's things I hate, but eventually I'm gonna have to give this a 7 out or a 6.5 out of 10.
6 out of 10.
Yeah, 6 point.
sorry. Would you say that, like, if you were to rewatch it, you just watch it and then switch your brain off? You wouldn't necessarily watch it for the story. You just watch it because it was a fun action movie.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, it as a time waster. If I could shut my brain off, yeah, it's pretty enjoyable. But as as a fan of the Mummy trilogy, this is the weak child.
So, well, we'll move on to Harry now.
Thanks, Ollie. Well, yeah, to sum it all up, it's not great. Yeah,
This is going to be a rant.
oh, not quite. Like Josh, I will not. I don't hate this movie, but it's just meh. You know, it's this is
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Basically, yeah, this is the weakest of the Mummy trilogy easily. I mean, this is on par, I say, with the 2017 reboot in terms of quality. Just, I mean, changing directors. Robert Cohen directed this movie. I'm like, what the fuck? Why couldn't Stephen Sommers have returned?
Yeah, because he was actually producing this movie. He was still involved with the series, but he didn't direct it for whatever reason.
Yeah, that was a bad idea from the start, not having Stephen Sommers return, because Rob Cohen's direction is.
Was it due to the reception of the second film that Stephen thought, oh, maybe best to let someone else do it, or maybe because they were going in a different direction completely? They thought get a new director entirely.
Probably, but yeah, I see what they were trying to do, but that didn't work out too well, obviously, because his direction is just awful. He clearly doesn't know what he's doing, and just I mean, but first the good, because I do think this movie has a little more redeeming qualities than the critics give it credit for. Yeah, the critics absolutely despise this movie. So. Firstly, I will say I do still like Brendan Fraser and John Hannah. As Josh said, they are the only two actors here who are showing charisma from the main cast. And I do like Michelle Yeoh. Her character is a total badass, very strong female character indeed. And the Chinese setting, it's a nice change from Egypt. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I did. I do like I do think the effects here do look a bit better than the first two, seeing as this is 2008. Obviously,
I agree.
Yeah, definitely, technology has come a long way, but now sadly, the negatives, and yeah, there's quite a bit to talk about. Just my biggest problem with this movie is that not having Rachel Weisz reprise her role as Evelyn was a very poor decision. I mean, why recast her? Mary Bello as Evelyn. She's just
Unfortunately,
she's
Harry, the recasting was inevitable. I mean, she would have. Well, as for the reasons Josh said, she didn't want to come back if she was going to have to be the mother of a grown-up son, and also she was pregnant around the time when they were making it, so it wasn't going to be practical for her to return even if she wanted to.
Oh, okay, I can see that, but Marabello.
But no, don't get me wrong, I wanted her in it as much as the next guy.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm disappointed she wasn't able to return, and Marabello is all right, but she's not a patch on Rachel Weisz. So Rachel Weisz's absence from this movie is greatly missed.
Sorry, there's no chemistry with her and Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, there's none at all. I felt nothing between them. The romance here is the worst in the trilogy, and bar none. And their grown-up son Alex. Why the heck is he American? I agree. That's terrible writing. Did they forget about the first two movies?
Which is terrible casting. Like, could the actor not have done a British accent?
Yeah, he could have easily done. Yeah, I hated him as an adult. So can we please just get the kid actor from The Mummy Return back?
it was set like what 10 years after the second one.
Oh, oh yeah.
I mean, I guess had they made this 2 years after the second one, they probably would have got the same boy to return. But obviously, he would be too old. But they still could have used him.
Yeah, easily. I would have taken him over this guy any day, and and the and the Jet Li as the Dragon Emperor. He is a awful, boring, one-dimensional antagonist. Pardon?
Oh, he's wasted.
Yeah, exactly. He does a total jack shit. And yeah, yeah, it's just exactly. And yeah, or at least he provides a good threat. How he can turn into a dragon. He commands a army of terracottas, 10,000 strong. But they do so little with him. It's so underwhelming. Yeah, he is the worst villain in this trilogy. And
I agree.
oh yeah, yeah, and this just the story. It's just it's too basic. It's nothing special. It's just an evil mummy returning after a backstory.
He's not technically a mummy, and that's the problem. He's turned to stone.
Oh, exactly. So why even title this movie The Mummy? Yeah, and it's so yeah, it's just the typical backstory of the Dragon Emperor being defeated, which is a rip-off and rehash of the two backstories from the first two movies. And yeah, the story is just these guys go on an adventure to defeat an evil villain from taking over the world. That's it. There's such a lack of substance here. Yeah, the action, I'm sorry, I found so boring and just dull to watch. This is not how you do action in a blockbuster, particularly. The terracottas provide no challenge or threat. So they are way too easily defeated, and and I will say, while I do think. While I do give the CGI a pass for the most part, I think the CGI Yetis look fake as fuck. Yeah.
I actually think when the Emperor turns into some of the monsters, they look even worse. I actually think the Yetis don't look too bad.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, actually, the dragon the Emperor turns into didn't look that particularly convincing, but and and the score was actually done by two guys. It was done by Randy Edman and John Debris, and it's so plain and boring. There's nothing stand out about it. Yeah. And this movie's actually surprisingly the shortest of the three. It's like an hour and 50 minutes, but it's the slowest. It feels like the longest. How is that possible? I don't know. So yeah, I definitely skip this movie of the Mummy movies. They definitely just made this movie because hey, the first two movies were big box office successes. Hey,
why did it take them 7 years to? Why was there such a delay from the second to the third?
Well, yeah. It made no sense. This movie came way too late. It could have come way quicker than it did. Yeah, so by the time this movie came out, everybody had moved on from the Mummy movie, so nobody gave a shit about it. And so yeah, like Josh says, I love some trilogies, mainly The Return of the King, The Dark Knight Rises, and Toy Story 3, and even Spider-Man 3, and of course Star Wars Episode 3 and Return of the Jedi and The Last Crusade. But this is an example of worst in the trilogies, where they just forced this one out just for the money. Yeah, this sadly does get a 4 out of 10 from me.
Oh dear. That is a shame. Oh, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Well. You know, I remember this one quite vividly. I was in the cinema when I was 11. With my dad took us to watch it. At the time, I actually really enjoyed it. It obviously having people complained about it so much, I now see why people hate it. I never loved this movie or anything, but yeah, to be honest, Him the Dragon Emperor, it is neither great nor is it terrible. It's just okay. I mean, there's nothing else to say really. I mean, I appreciate something different, you know, by taking the story to China, but
Oh yeah.
yeah, in a way that also kind of makes it feel like it doesn't belong in the trilogy. The only thing that connects it to the first two, obviously, the title of it is because it's called The Mummy, and also like some of the cast, like Brendan Fraser, really, and John Hannah. Yeah, this movie's it's very different. I mean, somebody else. Rob Cohen. It's basically rinse and repeat the first two movies, just in China. Basically, that's it. It kind of feels like a spin-off to me. It kind of feels like, you know, a spin-off. Like, it feels like we didn't get a third Mummy Returns. We just got a spin-off. But I think the biggest problem with Tomb of the Dragon Emperor is the story. Fucking shit. And, you know, I
Oh
don't
yeah, it sucks.
make any apologies for that opinion, because generally they didn't put any thought into this. They were like, let's just do another thing of what we did in the first two, you know, just put it in China, you know, that'll make it. I mean, yeah, like the opening scene is interesting when they're going through the backstory of how this emperor with no name is,
Oh yeah.
you know, basically a dick, and he's trying to take control of China by building the Great Wall, and, you know, just being a prick to everybody, trying to gain immortal life. Like what we motivation? Why the hell is he a prick? And why the hell does he go over China? Yeah, obviously, yeah, power. He wants to be in. Why? But why? Can you explain this, please? No? Fine. All right, fine. We'll move on. Oh, God. And then, you know, why call this movie The Mummy? He's not even mummified. He's turned to fucking stone in the worst CGI ever.
Oh yeah.
For God's sake. I mean, seriously, how I thought we learned from the first two that, you know, the bad CGI was what brought your films down. But no, it's still there. Oh,
What's the worst?
yeah, well, it just pisses me off. But I mean, I can't deny I don't hate this movie. I think it's fun. You know, again, it's fun like the first two. I think the action sequences are pretty cool. I like the they have like a big chase during Shanghai, which I guess is a bit of a rip-off of the London chase in the second movie, but I don't mind because I think it's pretty entertaining. It's pretty funny that Jonathan's car gets Rick's car getting destroyed in the second. So there's a lot of like, like a from the second and the first film. But yeah, and then obviously there's the scene with the Yetis in that big fight. I think that's pretty cool, and I think the Yetis actually look pretty good. I like them. And then, you know, we have the big climactic fight, which is kind of rushed, I think. Like there's like a big fight with the army, which doesn't really last long. I mean, the climax is probably the Show Yeo's fight with Jay. That's a cool fight scene. But the actual fight, like with the O'Connells and the Emperor, it lasts about what? Like, and he's so easily stabbed. Also, how the hell does that fucking dagger kill him? If he's gained immortal life, you know, how the hell can he be killed with that fucking dagger? You know, they never explain how it actually is the only thing that can kill him. Like, the script is so, like you said, Harry, there's no substance. I mean, unless you don't know the answer to my question, but, oh, God.
Yeah, right. He basically got killed with a dagger because the fucking plot needed him to.
Yeah, the script said so.
Yeah.
And yeah, Rob Cohen's direction, yeah, it's pretty mediocre. I don't.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he helms the action competently well, but the story, because the story's shit, it doesn't look like anyone cares. The emotional drama feels so forced. Like with the whole, like, again, like they did in the second movie. By this time, Rick is the one that gets stabbed, and it's like, oh come on, you know he's gonna survive, for fuck's sake, you know. And then this relationship, you just don't care anymore. This movie, you know, 5 years after anyone even cared, you know, well, not 5 years, but probably came out like at least 3 or 4 years after people were interested about the emotional drama here. I mean, as for the performances, this is the weakest performances of the trilogy. Although Brendan Fraser is great as Rick O'Connell, this is probably his weakest performance. He kind of feels like he's going through the motions, and again, he's got no chemistry with Maria Bello. But that's I'll get to in a minute. John Hannah, for a third time, he's good. I mean, he has to work with what he's been given in the script. He's still pretty funny when he needs to be, even though he doesn't really need to be there. But it's nice, and I like the fact that he calls his nightclub Imhotep's. Considering how much he hates mummies, it seems kind of ironic. Yeah, no, he's nice to have back. But other than that, the rest of the cast are pretty. Michelle Yeoh is good. I'll give her that. Jet Li is good, but he's completely wasted. I think antagonist is shit. I mean, and like it's so convoluted. How can he control all the elements? And you know why? What we don't know. The script never explains it. You know, Jet Li tries his best, I guess, with what he has. Also, you have another character who sort of reveals himself as a villain. Wilson, his name is Roger Wilson. He's like Alex's mentor. Then he just gets killed off so easily. Like he gets his head blown off. Well, not blown off. He gets his head sliced off. And you know he's only in the film for about 10 minutes. So like his character was pointless. I didn't understand why he was in it whatsoever. Because he formed an alliance with Generals Yin and Yang, and it was like, what? Okay, he's dead. So it didn't go anywhere. Again, the script needs so much restructuring. That's what pisses me off. Like the first two at least had competent scripts, and you could follow them. I mean, they were very clear. I mean, you know, the first two, which were directed by Stephen Sommers, you could tell were very distinctive films. And they were almost paying homage to the earlier, the classic Mummy movies. This is trying to be something different, but it can't hold itself together because the script and the story are just messy. And you know, speaking of cast, I'm inevitable, but obviously recasting Evie didn't really help. It's a shame that they couldn't work things out with Rachel Weisz, because I think her presence here would have at least been pleasing. It would have been nice to have her in it. I mean, Maria Bello, you know, she tries, but she comes across as very stiff, very wooden. Doesn't quite what Weisz did in the first two. And I mean, because in the second film especially, I believe the romance. I actually believe their relationship, and I believe they had a strong bond. In this movie, there's no chemistry at all with Brendan Fraser and Maria Bello. They're a married couple, but you don't feel the strength of their bond in this movie. You just feel like they're married, and yeah, feel like they're just there. And like this thing with her, like writing her books, and you know, she's reading her books, and then you know she's trying to think of what to write, and then she's like fumbling around in the room, and then she cuts the candles, and then the butler comes in, and it's all kind of awkward. Like some of the comedy is a bit forced. One thing I will say that move over the second one and the first one is the CGI. Thankfully, the CGI is at least decent. It's not perfect, but yeah, I mean, 7 years afterwards, thankfully, the technology has moved on since The Mummy Returns. So, Emperor is the most visually pleasing of the three, in terms of CGI, anyway. I mean, is good enough. You know, it moves along fine. It moves along quick. But again, like I said to Josh, like one of those things where you just switch your brain off, don't think about the story too much, and just watch it as a mindless action romp. But to be honest, if you're a fan of the trilogy, you're going to hate this movie because
definitely.
It just disappoints. It's not satisfying on many levels. I mean, sorry, Josh.
It's just disappointing.
Yeah, it is. Also, I forgot to mention Luke Ford as Alex. What the fuck? I mean, Jesus. I mean, where is he American? It makes no sense. I mean, you know, I wouldn't care if he was like a mediocre actor, but at least make it consistent. You know, he's British in the second film as a boy, and now he's American. What? American, half English, but you don't. When you grow up, accent, you know, it just makes no sense. It just, I don't know why, but it seriously bugs me. Oh, sorry, rant over, but it's like, what? For God's sake, like the dialect coach, or the, you know, just speak with your dialect coaches. Fire the dialect coach. Sack Luke Ford. He was terrible. You didn't need him, and he's another one that's very stiff in his role. You know, he's trying to act all smooth. You know, he's basically trying to be, like he's trying to be like a, I don't know how to say, like he's trying to be more of like a Harrison Ford version of Brendan Fraser, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah,
yeah, like with his smooth voice and his sort of like he's an action man as well. Like, and you know, they have to throw in the stupid fucking road with Lynn and Alex.
Oh
God. Like, Lynn is an alright character. She's not good or she's not bad. She's just alright. You know, she's just there. You know, she was just somebody who was there. You know, I didn't have a problem with her, but then, again, there's no chemistry. I mean, Isabel Leon plays her well, but, like, I don't believe that she wants to date this dude. I don't even believe that she even likes him as a person. And then by the end, you know, when they're dancing, I'm like, I'm cringing. I don't believe that for a second. No, they are not in love. No way. Oh, that's the least of the problems. Yeah, I mean, the climax, I think it could be a little bit of a rip-off of the second film, like with the armies fighting each other. As I said, yeah, it just ends so abruptly, and there's not much more to say about it. It's just style over substance. I do actually like the soundtrack. I think it works really well, and I really like the theme for the end credits. The da 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 da. I think it was a pretty epic theme. I do actually prefer the theme for the second. So I mean, but like, this movie, it just suffers greatly after you watch the first two. It almost doesn't feel like it belongs in the same trilogy in a way. Like I said, it feels more like a spin-off, but that's just me. Again, like I said, the CGI improves, particularly the shot of Shangri-La. When we see that, that's nice. I'm thinking, okay, finally, at least one thing this movie got right was the visuals, like CGI. It managed to at least look more than the first two. But yeah, it doesn't nearly have as much heart. I mean, when it tries to have heart, you know, it tries to emotionally blackmail you with Rick's almost death. You know, this, you know, like, what the hell? Oh, I don't know. But anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling on about this movie. I'm gonna rate it. I'm gonna be nice and give it a 5 out of 10. It's just okay. Like, but again, I probably wouldn't go back to it much. I'd probably rather go back to The Mummy Returns. But yeah, well, that pretty much is it, folks. That concludes our thoughts on The Mummy Trilogy, starring Brendan Fraser. So before we go, we'll just give our overall summaries on. So, Josh, what's your overall opinion of The Mummy Trilogy?
Yeah, this trilogy, I love the first one. still love the second one. Third one, yeah, is disappointing. One of the third installments that has disappointed me. There are only a couple third installments that disappoints me. But if I can turn my brain off and not think about the story, it's actually quite fun. But this is it's an okay show. This is a good trilogy.
Cool. Is there anything else you want to say, or is that pretty much it?
That's pretty much it.
Cool. So Harry, what's your overall verdict on the trilogy?
I think this is an okay trilogy. The first one is obviously the one I really enjoy the most. I wouldn't have minded if that was the only one because none of the sequels, in my opinion, lived up to it. So second one, yes, even though some may disagree. A second one decent, and third one just mediocre. But this is overall well and okay blockbuster trilogy that's like Josh said, just turn your brain off and have fun with it. Yeah, you can skip the third one, but the first two are enjoyable and do have more merit than the critics say. So yeah, okay trilogy, far from one of the best cinematic trilogies ever, but one I do occasionally watch now and again.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can agree with that. I would say overall, it's you know, like a decent enough trilogy. I can't say it's one of the best trilogies ever made. No way.
Oh, far from it.
But there's more positive than negative, I'd say. Even that the third one really does drag the trilogy down quite a lot. It probably would have been better to leave it as two films, but oh well, they had to make it a trilogy, so that's fine. Like I said, the first one I like. I'm not as crazy about it as you, but I still think it's a good, solid movie, and it can be a lot of fun. I just think some of the pacing needed tightening up. The second even better, and it's what I wanted out of all of them. And the third one, yeah, it's fun, but it's disappointing in the storytelling department and the script department. But it's visually better, and it's got some entertaining action. So it as a mindless watch, it's fine. But if you're watching it for the story, then well, don't bother. You're wasting your time. But yeah. So like, I don't know. I guess out of 30, I would have to give the first one an 8. The second one, did I actually rate the second one? I can't remember.
You gave it an 8.
I gave it an 8. Yeah. So that's 16, and then plus 5. So I give it 21 out of 30. What about you, Harry?
I give the Mummy an 8, Mummy Returns a 7, and Tomb of the Dragon Emperor 4.
So out of 30, what would that be?
Out of 30, that would be 19.
19. What about you, Josh?
I gave the first Mummy movie an 8.5. Second one I gave a 9.3, and Tomb of the Dragon Emperor I gave it a 6.5.
So what would that be out of 30?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Out of 3, probably a 20. I don't know. I guess. Yeah, I don't really know.
All right. Oh, not to worry. Well, yeah, that's pretty much it. Everybody, thank you all for watching and listening. Is there anything you guys want to say before we close off?
This trilogy's I'd watch it over the 2017 reboot any day.
Oh yes, yeah. I personally feel that Tomb of the Dragon Emperor is at least watchable, unlike the new film.
Oh, definitely.
What about you, Josh? Because you actually sort of prefer the reboot a little bit more to us.
Well, I can watch this trilogy. Third one has problems, but it's watchable. And I do like the 2017 reboot. So yeah,
Fair enough. Well, that's that. I mean, we may decide to do a reflection on that one at some point. But until then, thank you guys all for watching and listening. I'm Mr. TARDIS11. This is Harry. This is Josh.